Morning, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Mike's MMA Picks Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown Show, brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. We head south to Elevation this week at UFC Mexico City. 12 fights on the card. Some very, very tight matchups. I see a lot of folks sitting on the sidelines for this one. I understand where you're coming from. I also think that if you do play your cards right, this may be a time to capitalize. So, got to watch weigh-ins, got to dig deep this week, and we're ready. Let's kick things off. First fight of the night in the lightweight division, we've got Claudio Puelles taking on Marcus Mariano. Marcus Mariano comes in as a 7,200 underdog in DraftKings, a plus 255 underdog. 32 years old. Last time out, we saw him flattened by Lando Venata. Apparently, this is Anderson Silva's protege, aka clone. Besides the body movement, mannerisms on the feet, may see some subtle similarities, but that's where it ends. Puelles, 9,000 in DraftKings, minus 325 favorite, only 23 years old. This is his third fight in the UFC. A Peruvian fighter coming off of a win over Felipe Silva, where he was actually throttled during numerous portions of that fight. The way I see this, if this plays out on the feet, Marcus Mariano could put Puelles in danger. We've seen Puelles KO'd by Martin Bravo. This is a very dangerous fight. Unfortunately, this is one of those fights. It's the first fight on the card, so that's another danger. If you're playing DraftKings, folks may know what it's like to go heavy on the first card, and then your night's done if you don't get this one right. So, folks may be scared off of Puelles for that reason. He is the favorite here because he's the stronger grappler. That's a legitimate path to victory. Problem is, there's a legitimate chance that he gets KO'd in this spot. I would stay away from him from the betting window, but as far as the DraftKings play goes, this would be the one. So give me Puelles to win this fight. Next up, we've got Betch-Correia taking on Sijara Eubanks. Betch-Correia 7,100 in DraftKings, plus 225 underdog at BetDSI. Betch now 36 years old. She came into the UFC with a 9-0 record and then met some serious adversity. She's lost her past few fights. Last time out, we saw her looking competent against Irene Aldana, although succumbed in the latter rounds. I believe back-to-back third-round finish losses. Holly Holm also finished her. Sijara Eubanks, deceiving 4-3 overall record. 9,100 in DraftKings, minus 275 at the betting window. This is Sijara Eubanks' second fight at 135 pounds. She comes in with a 3-inch reach advantage, fights with Mark Henry. She's a legitimate black belt, coming off of a loss to Aspen Ladd in her last fight. I thought, I was really shocked at the 30-26 by one of the judges. I thought it was a much closer fight than the judges scoring. I actually had Eubanks edging that fight out. In this spot, the fight is taking place at elevation. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 205. Correia made weight. She was smiling on the scales. You go to her Instagram page, you don't find any helpful nuggets of information. Both fighters have spent a significant chunk of time, a few weeks down at elevation. This spot, I'm all over Sijara Eubanks in this spot. I think that she has a few paths to victory here. The only issue I have her running into is if she gasses in the latter rounds. But when I consider that this is her second full camp at 135 pounds, and I think she has the skills to win this fight. She has the ferocity and the right attitude. I think we're going to see Eubanks come out victorious in this spot. She could win this fight a few different ways, and I would not be surprised to see her win the fight inside the distance. Next up, we head to the men's light heavyweight division. We've got Paul Bearju Craig, 11-4 record, taking on Vinicius Moreira. Moreira is 9-3 overall. He has been steamrolled in his past couple of UFC fights. I'm actually surprised they gave him such a quick turnaround here. He last fought in June. So I'm a little shocked here. 8,300 for Moreira, minus 125 favorite. Paul Craig, 7,900 plus 105 underdog in this spot. Paul Craig with the slightest of reach advantages here. A few things on the feet. This is going to be a very sloppy fight, but when this fight does hit the ground, I expect it to be a technical ground fight. I am leaning slightly to Moreira to win this fight. Paul Craig on the feet looks like he might have a slight advantage. I also think Craig is going to come in with a slight cardio advantage in this spot. But Paul Craig has a habit of pulling guard in fights, and this is the wrong guy to do that against. I do see this fight heading to the ground, and I'm actually going to be picking Moreira by submission in this spot. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 255. You also have these fighters in that mid-range. So I am going to pick Moreira in that spot. Next up, we have Sergio Pettis dropping back down to 125 pounds, taking on Pettis-Nam. Pettis-Nam, 18-9-1 record, 35 years old, one of the cheapest fighters on DraftKings at 6,900 plus 275 underdog. Pettis-Nam, 5'7", has fought at 135 pounds a few times now. Sergio Pettis coming down from 135 pounds. He looked like a mini 135 pounder. Gave it his best shot with the division about to be liquidated, but thank goodness for Henry Cejudo dispatching of the PED-infused TJ Dillashaw, and we've got 125ers continuing to fight. 9,300 for Sergio Pettis is a big price to pay. I'm not comfortable paying that price. Minus 345 favorite. At one point, Pettis was down in the minus 280 range, but that has since been steamed. Sergio Pettis, believe it or not, still only 26 years of age. Very technical striker, counter striker, quick feet. I believe he's been working on his ground game, though you can't trust Sergio Pettis anytime the fight heads to the ground. Pettis-Nam fights out of Portland with a bunch of wrestlers up there. His He's not known for his wrestling. I have a hunch that that may be in his back pocket for this fight, but I got to pick Sergio Pettis in this spot. I think that volume, precision, being acclimated to this, to fighting at UFC Mexico City before, is going to help him in this spot. Nam, nothing to lose. He finally gets his shot late in the game of his career. You want to something to look out for are older fighters fighting at low weight divisions. So when you have a 125 pounder at 35 years of age, typically there isn't a long shelf life at that age when you're unless you're Joseph Benavidez. Other fighters have struggled when they've gotten up in age. Their quickness disappears. So give me Sergio Pettis in that spot. Next up, we've got Angela Hill taking on Eubanks-Correia. Carnelossi, 12-1 record, 7,700 right now, plus 130 underdog right now, 7,700 in DraftKings. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 385. Angela Hill, 8,500 in DraftKings, minus 150. Oh, man. Angela Hill. She gets back in there. Somehow she's been getting fight after fight after fight. Now she's racked up a 9-7 record. I expect her, although we don't have the reach numbers on Carnelossi, I expect Angela Hill to come in with a significant reach advantage. Last time we saw Angela Hill take home a victory was against Jody Escobar. We saw her lose to Randa Marcos. Volume striker. She's got a pretty diverse skill set, but she wants to keep it on the feet and pepper at distance. Carnelossi, first thing that jumps out at me is her physique. There's definitely something going on there. Wouldn't be surprised if USADA catches her after the fact. I'm always concerned about these late notice replacements. I think they get an edge being outside of the USADA testing pool. It's really a concern. They come in all jacked up. I think of Araju and a bunch of other short notice replacements who come in totally jacked. So Carnelossi is very, very small. 5'2", actually weighed in at 112 pounds at weigh-ins. I watch her fights on the regional scene, and she overwhelms her opponents. Doesn't possess a overwhelming or a legitimate wrestling game from what I see. She doesn't. You look at her and you think of somebody like Jessica Andrade, but she's not picking people up and slamming them. She does. Her striking's similar though. She throws her punches from the hip. Total disregard for striking defense, which I think is going to come back to haunt her in this fight. I do favor Angela Hill. I wouldn't be surprised if Angela Hill came out and put on a pace. Angela Hill has been in there with the best of the best. Hasn't fought Wei Li Zhang though. In this spot, give me Angela Hill with a volume-based decision. And I think at minus 150, she may be worth that price tag. Next up, we head to the men's 145-pound division. We've got Marco Polo Reyes taking on Kyle Nelson. Kyle Nelson, 12-3 record, 8,600 in DraftKings, minus 125 favorite currently. Then you have Polo Reyes, 7,600 plus 105. Always concerned when you see fighters dropping down a weight class after taking a few consecutive losses, especially when they come via knockout. So this is what's happening with Polo Reyes. Identical reach here. This fight is not expected to go to a decision at minus 260. When I watch Kyle Nelson fight, I watch his regional tape, as well as, of course, his fights against Carlos Diego Ferreira and Met Sales. He is at a tremendously a disadvantage athletically. That's a real concern for me, is that he's at a big disadvantage. You watch him strike, and he looks almost like a robot moving around out there. It's a real concern. He is a fighter who is doing the best with his God-given ability, and you can tell he's put in the work. But as far as a natural athlete goes, Kyle Nelson is at a big disadvantage. He puts in legitimate camps now, and he's huge for the weight class. But I have concerns, especially against Polo Reyes in this spot, a guy who is going to be fighting at home, at elevation, is a legitimate striker. And that's one thing that you can't teach, is that power that Reyes does possess. Granted, he's off of the PEDs. This is a dangerous spot. The longer this fight goes, I expect Nelson to perform better, but I am going to be picking Polo Reyes in this spot at plus 105. I see Nelson making improvements. He was one thing people have to understand, though, is he takes big damage, and he can take big damage early against some fighters. I don't think he's going to be able to take big damage against Polo Reyes in this spot. Sales was teeing off on him, ragdolling Nelson for the majority of their fight. Those two fighters are in two totally different leagues, but what I'm getting at is Polo Reyes, I believe, is a harder puncher than Matt Sales, and Nelson, from my eyes, is there to be hit. So I'm going to be picking Reyes in this spot, though this is a very closely lined fight against with two fighters who I cannot trust. I have to pick somebody, though. Next up, we have Jose Alberto Quinones taking on Carlos Huachin. Huachin comes in with a 10-4 record. Huachin also is fighting out of the same camp that Puelles is coming from. Another Peruvian fighter. Huachin, 7,500 in DraftKings, plus 125 underdog currently. Quinones, 8,700, minus 145 favorite. Quinones, 29 years of age, 7-3 overall record, which this guy's been fighting in the UFC for quite some time. I go back even before the UFC. If you have a chance, check out Quinones' fight against Davi Ramos. They fought on the regional scene, and Quinones was KO'd in that spot. But Quinones fighting out of Alliance. Fighting out of Alliance, and also spending time in Mexico. He was riding a 4-fight winning streak at one point. Then was disposed of Nathaniel Wood. Took one hell of a beating. I'll be honest. Quinones, when I watch him fight, he's got a formidable, fluid stand-up. Got an athletic fighter with leg kicks and can wrestle and can put on a pace, has tremendous cardio. Huachin, we saw last time out against Barcelos. Really made Huachin work, and Huachin came in on short notice, brought the fight to Barcelos, was landing heavy punches and punches in bunches, landing combinations, showing great footwork. We didn't get to see a lot of a kicking game. We did see him trying to fend off the takedown, and he looked slippery out there. In this spot, Huachin is in my eyes, the heavier striker, someone who's going to have success closing distance, and he is, in my eyes, the stronger fighter. What I think we're going to see play out here is a Quinones who's going to try to stand at range, manage distance, and also win on volume. Huachin, I really want to see what kind of cardio he has at this type of elevation. I'm leaning towards the underdog, and I'm actually going to pick Huachin to win this fight. I think he has the tools to get the job done, and at 23 years of age, he showed great composure against opponents, and he didn't deviate from the way he had fought in the past. If you go to his regional scene, granted, it looked like he was fighting lower caliber fighters. He was having the same kind of success versus lower caliber fighters as he was against Barcelos. So give me Huachin to come through as an underdog in this spot. Next up, we head to the men's 145-pound division. We've got Steven Peterson fighting out of Fortis MMA, taking on Martin Bravo. Very, very closely lined fight. Both of these fighters come in at minus 110 and 8,100 respectively. We have Martin Bravo with a 1.5-inch reach, volume-based striker. His last fight had a split decision loss to Alex Caceres. Steven Peterson also took a loss to Caceres recently. Peterson, he can be a human punching bag when he's out there. I'm concerned about the if this fight does head to the ground, then we may see Bravo get overwhelmed. Though his takedown defense is remarkable. Don't see Bravo get taken down that often. He invites firefights, and Peterson should be bringing a firefight to him. 17-9 record for Peterson. This guy has taken a lot of losses. He gets by on sheer toughness often. He does come out of a great camp. Martin Bravo, the head kick loss to Bandanai is a major concern. When he came back and fought Caceres, I was questioning his chin and the way he was able to bounce back, but he was. And I am in this spot at 25 years of age. Bravo, in my eyes, I like his hands, man, and I think Bravo can pull off a decision victory in this spot, one that could put up a significant number of DraftKings points. If Peterson is coached up well and he implements a grappling-heavy approach, granted he may not get the takedowns, but if he tries to grapple, that may be a path to victory for Peterson. But give me Bravo in that spot. Next up, we have Irene Aldana taking on Vanessa-Melo. This fight takes place at 135 pounds. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 175. Melo comes in at 6,800 in DraftKings, plus 475. This is a fighter who missed weight. 31 years of age. She came in at 140 pounds. Irene Aldana, 9,400, minus 675 favorite. Yes, that's correct. Minus 675. 31 years of age also. I expect, we didn't have a reach on Melo, but I expect Aldana, she's very, very long. I expect her to have a reach advantage in this spot. Aldana, this is the second time she's fighting somebody who comes in 4+ pounds overweight for their match. Somehow, someway, Vanessa-Melo is a former regional fighter, former champion on the regional scene. I believe she fought for TSA. I watch her and I am, man. I think she's gonna I think the odds are correct in this spot. She's slow. She's a grinder. She carries a lot of weight in her lower body. And, hey, you go look at her Tapology record. She actually has a win over Molly McCann back in 2015, a long time ago. But she does not throw volume, and she's going to be at a big striking disadvantage against Irene Aldana. Aldana comes in great shape. You watch another disturbing thing. Watch the weigh-ins. Melo steps off that scale and basically limps away in pain. You look like she had a horrific cut, and she still missed by 4+ pounds. So give me Aldana. She may actually get the finish in this spot. You know what? I am expecting her to finish in this spot. Give me Aldana at 9,400 to finish. Very high price to pay as far as DraftKings goes. But when you look at your other options, Eubanks, although she may be expected to go to a decision, I could see her finishing. And Sergio Pettis, I don't think is a good play at 9,300. Let's see. Let's move on now. We've got a promising matchup between Askarov against Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno is a UFC retread in this spot. 15-5 record. 7,400 in DraftKings plus 140 underdog. We've got Askarov, 8,800 minus 160 favorite. Askarov has yet to lose in his professional career. In fact, all 10 of his fights have ended via finish. I went back and watched some of this guy's wrestling, his sambo, his professional fights. I'm very impressed. He's a quick fighter. He has great wrestling. He has solid ground and pound. He has some creative submissions. You don't see a twister submission that often, and he was able to pull that off against Leone a couple of years ago. He's got a hell of a squeeze, too. You talk about another fighter who has a hell of a squeeze, Brandon Moreno. He just came onto the scene after beating Luis Smolka a few years ago and was blown out of the water recently by Pantoja. Pantoja, though, he's one hell of a tough fighter. We saw how Figueiredo, he hung in there against Figueiredo. So, Brandon Moreno, local fighter with a 70-inch reach, went back to LFA, won that fight, comes back to the UFC. We know Moreno has a great ground game, looking for the submission, but his stand-up is an issue. He was running into problems against Dustin Ortiz, and there have been a number of fighters who Moreno has struggled against. And I'll say this, though. Moreno, he may be improving he's still only 25 years of age, so I understand the line, why this is a closely lined fight. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 140, so I do lean to picking one of these fighters and possibly rostering them. My pick here is going to be Askarov. I think that he has wrestling to nullify Moreno, and his stand-up is going to be more crisp. And at 125 pounds, we don't see many knockouts. I could see Askarov dropping hammer fists on Moreno late in the fight. And I'm not going to rule out a submission as well. So give me Askarov to take home this victory. Next up, we get to the co-main event of the evening. We've got Carla Esparza taking on Alexa Grasso. Grasso comes in at 8,400, minus 135 favorite, taking on Esparza, 7,800, plus 115 underdog. Esparza, 31 years of age. And we've got Alexa-Grasso, who's a much younger fighter. I obviously watch all of their fights, but Alexa-Grasso, I know she came onto the scene with a lot of promise, and there was concern about her lack of a grappling game. She's going to need to have some sort of grappling to take on Esparza, especially her takedown defense. She's going to have to light Esparza up as she tries to close distance and punish her. Esparza, we know a lot of people underestimate her. She has what you need in DraftKings. She can grapple. Granted, she doesn't transition often, but she will land takedowns. She has a great gas tank. She doesn't wear damage well. Grasso, I went back and watched this was from a few years ago, but the fight against Jody Escobar, you kind of got a glimpse of what Alexa-Grasso came into the UFC with. She has pinpoint striking, and this fight being in Mexico, I could see this being an ugly fight where Grasso is clawing away and trying to get up, and then gets taken down again, and Esparza's landing multiple takedowns against the fence and grinding, and then while we're on the feet, Grasso, I could see her landing 3-4 punch combinations for about 10-15 second intervals, and then gets taken down again. That's one way I've been picturing this fight play out. Another scenario is that Grasso has stepped up her game, and that this is a pivotal moment in her career, and that she, after disposing of a Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who really, honestly, she hasn't officially announced her retirement, but in my eyes, she's retired, and I think that would suit her well. I think Alexa-Grasso, I think that was a huge confidence builder for her, and I expect that to carry into this fight. I think we're going to see Alexa-Grasso win this fight by decision. And this fight is, look at that, it's expected to go to a decision, minus 375 to go to a decision. This is a dangerous play from a DraftKings point of view, though. At 8,400, Grasso may get nullified, and there may be better options to play other than Grasso. Let's head to the main event and close this one out, my friends. We've got Yair Rodriguez taking on Jeremy Stephens. Stephens comes in at 8,000. Yair Rodriguez comes in at 8,200. You're going to need one of these fighters to take down a GPP in my eyes. Man, I honestly believe Jeremy Stephens, although he's been at he's been at Alliance, but he's said he worked with Tony Ferguson in the lead up to this fight to clean up his footwork. I believe he's the same fighter he's always been. You watch his fight against Moicano. You watch so many of his fights. He fights the exact same way. He's going to try to get inside. Going to try and use his fight-ending abilities from a striking standpoint. Going to throw low kicks. Look at this fight against Gil Melendez. This guy, if you could put one fighter's heart into anybody of another fighter, you want Jeremy Stephens' heart. This guy does not give up. He's a warrior through and through. He's somebody who will fight for your money. That being said, he is often at a disadvantage from a technical standpoint. And if fighters are able to stick to their P's and Q's, they may see success for significant length of time. This is a 5-round fight. So a lot can go wrong for Yair Rodriguez in this spot if Jeremy Stephens is able to have some success. Yair Rodriguez, still only 26 years old, comes off of the 5-round war against Korean Zombie. Both of these fighters, by the way, have identical reach, and this fight isn't expected to go to a decision at minus 195. Yair Rodriguez, dynamic striker, is not afraid to try low percentage maneuvers in the hopes that they will pay off in a similar fashion that they did to Korean Zombie. We've seen Yair Rodriguez get exposed in the past. One other thing, just getting back to the Sergio Pettis fight, something that stuck out to me when watching multiple interviews with Sergio Pettis was that he revealed that he was exposed in his fight against Rob Font, and for him to show a sense of humility, go back to the drawing board, I believe that says a lot about him. In a parallel to Yair Rodriguez, this guy does not get caught up in predicting finishes. He tries to live in the moment, take what's in front of him. Very creative striker. You've heard Jeremy Stephens say that what can Yair Rodriguez throw at me that I haven't already seen? I've beaten Zabit, and he's somebody that Yair Rodriguez apparently was trying to avoid. Went the distance with Zabit and was pouring it on late. The tide started to turn in that fight. You listen to Jeremy Stephens heading into almost every fight, he sounds the exact same way. The Jose Aldo fight, same way. You watch the Dennis Bermudez fight, fighting the same way, talking the same way. We know exactly who he is, what he's going to bring to the table. Is that going to be enough? It may be. This is a very, very, very closely aligned fight. I am avoiding this fight from the betting window, and I am slightly leaning Yair Rodriguez. I'm going to pick Yair in this spot. I think that although Yair doesn't have the boxing striking defense that you typically look for in a mixed martial artist, he does have, I do like his distance management. When he sees strikes coming towards him, he backs away. I'm concerned if he gets cornered against the cage, that's going to be a problem. I want to see what kind of answer he has for Stephens if Stephens is able to corner him. That's where things may get very hairy. I think you'd be best served loading up on both of these fighters, because this fight should end inside the distance, and I expect a lot of strikes to be landed. I'd like to, in some weird way, I'd like to see Yair Rodriguez come out here and outclass Jeremy Stephens. I'm not sure if we're going to see that happen. This is a toss-up fight in my eyes. I think the layoff of Yair Rodriguez is a concern, though he had to heal up from that war against Korean Zombie, and he was losing on the scorecards in that fight. So I understand why people are on Stephens. I'm leaning towards Yair in this spot, but I just think that he's the more dynamic, fluid striker. He's got quicker punches, and he may not be able to take the damage that Stephens is going to try to inflict on him. We saw what happened to Josh Emmett and other fighters down the road. And I always go back to that fight at UFC 189 between Dennis Bermudez and Jeremy Stephens. Even when you count Stephens out at the third round, he was losing that fight. He lands this flying knee up the middle against the cage as Bermudez is trying to close distance, and that's always something that I have in the back of my head. All right, so give me Yair by the slimmest of margins here. We're about to close things out, folks. You can follow me at betmma.tips as well as CapperTech. This podcast, this breakdown show has been brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for all the support. Wish you the best of luck with your plays and in your DraftKings contests. Have an awesome day. Best of luck to you.